Hi, good evening. My name is David, and tonight I'm running a session of Brindlewood Bay. Brindlewood Bay is a game by Jason Cordova. It's a cozy murder mystery investigation with um, uh, sort of supernatural horror themes underneath. So this is basically inspired by old TV shows in the vein of Murder She Wrote, those other sort of like episodic murder mystery investigations. Um, and as I said, this kind of like almost Lovecraftian, creepy, sort of like small town horror running underneath things. So that is what the game is. This game was actually released. We're running this game this evening as part of the Gauntlet online role playing community. As I said, we're a group of folk who get together to play games like this online. We also have a series of podcasts that are produced. And we've got forums and stuff. You can find more about this at I've completely blanked on the URL. It's gauntlet-rpg.com. I was just blanking on whether there's a "the" in there, but I don't think there is. I'll put a link below anyway. And we also do a monthly codex, which is a zine, so that has all sort of stuff for role playing games. And this game was sort of released as a sort of extended version in place of a normal codex issue a month or two back. If you didn't get it as part of that, then it is now available on Drive Through RPG. Once again, there'll be a link down to it below. And with all that rambling aside, I will ask our players to introduce themselves in just a moment. So the premise for this is that as you'll understand when we introduce a character in a second, that that our players will be playing a group of older women known as the Murder Mavens. They form a murder mystery book club in the town of Brindlewood Bay, which is set in sort of the New England. That's sort of where we're at. That's enough rambling from me. As I said, my name is David. I use he, him pronouns, and I will ask my players to introduce themselves and their characters. And once again, I'll go through in character keeper order, starting off with Stephen, if you would.
Hey there. I'm Stephen. I am playing Muriel. She is the group's biker gran. I have a old Harley that I rode perhaps with a biker gang back in the day, but I was also an elementary school teacher. I enjoy baking and long walks on the beach.
Lovely, thank you very much. And next up, I think, is Jesse.
I play Alexandra Lexie Larkham Seymour. Lexie. She comes from a long line of New England aristocracy all the way back to the Mayflower, and she married into a similar blue blood family. But it turned out her late husband was less than honest in earning his living, as was discovered upon auditing the estate, and so has left her with very little, except for their vacation home in Brindlewood Bay and her boat, the Molasses Flood, which she enjoys messing about in. She before retirement, she was a homemaker to her husband and 4 children. Her identity as a mother is very important to her. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. And obviously, we'll be learning more about our characters as we play through. As learning a little bit about their past is very much baked into the mechanics of Brindlewood Bay, as we'll get onto later, I'm sure. And last but not least, Joel, if you'd like to introduce yourself and your character.
Yeah. Hi, I am Joel, he, him pronouns. I am playing Nellie, she, her pronouns. Nellie is kind of the hippie artist who, had a good time during the 60s. She's a retired art teacher, has a lot of her students' old paintings around the house, and just kind of lives on her own with her beloved Maine Coon cat, Lillian, that she kind of dotes on and spoils. And she's in a book club with these other lovely ladies as they kind of read some murder mysteries and solve some murder mysteries themselves.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So yeah, we are. Before I go any further, we'll be playing using a couple of safety tools this evening. These are basically just to ensure that we're all comfortable with what goes on in the game, and that we have ways of dealing with that if we get into areas where it's not. This is particularly important because, like I said, although there is certainly at the outset of the game, it is designed to be kind of like that sort of quite cozy sort of setting and sort of tone to the game. There are horror elements that can become more prevalent, and obviously as well we will be dealing, as is evident in the whole premise, we will be dealing with cases of murder. So there's always the possibility we'll get into areas that are potentially more sensitive for some people, or so we want to make sure we can deal with that adequately. As a big part of this, we have had a discussion before the game began about any lines and veils we want added in. I'll direct my players. We have that tab in the character keeper. If you wish to refresh refresh your mind of those, then please do so. As ever, this is a living document. If there's anything that comes up that you want to add to it, or just at any point you want to add something to it, then please do. All I'd ask, if you do add stuff to it during the game, if you can just send me a quick message, just so that I know to check and I can inform other people. If you don't want to just say yourself, which is also cool. Aside from that, we will be using the X card as our kind of emergency brake, as it were. So this is quite a simple tool. I'm sure everyone is probably familiar with it, but basically, if something comes up in the scene that you don't like, for whatever reason, really, whether that's you feel it's just tonally a bit off, it's not something that works for your character, or if it is something that's an area of sensitivity for you and you just don't want to go there, then you can invoke the X card by holding up your hands in sort of X shape, by typing something in the chat, or just by saying I'd like to X card that. So please do if you need to. If something is X carded, basically what will happen is we'll just sort of remove that from the scene. We'll ignore it going forwards. We may step back a little bit and change how the scene plays out slightly, anything like that. But the important thing to remember is I might ask you to explain what it is that you're X carding if it isn't obvious from the context of what's going on. But I won't ask you to justify or give any explanation for why you want to X card that. If you want to X card it, we will just take it out, and that's fine. Likewise, if something you've brought in gets X carded, don't take that as a sort of personal thing, and likewise don't feel that you have done something wrong. We don't always know what things are going to be sensitive going in ahead of it. That's what the tool's there for. It's sort of, that's what it's for. So that's the X card. The other tool we'll be using is the script change tool. I will do a very quick overview of this, but the script change, this is documented in a PDF in the shared folder for my players if you want to have a look at it. But the script change is basically a tool for a couple of different maneuvers. It's sort of all based on like a video remote control. So the most important tool is pause. At any point you can call pause, and we will just stop what's going on for a moment. This might be like you actually just need to take a break away from the screen for a moment. This might be, the doorbell's just gone, or something of that nature comes up. It might be because the scene's getting quite intense and you are happy to continue with it, but you just need a moment to compose yourself or breathe or whatever. Or it might be that there's something you want to have like an out of character discussion about, and you just want to take a break out of the in character action going on to just say, hey, I'm not sure if I like where the scene is going. Can we try and make it more like this? Or I would like to do this in the scene. Are people happy with that? Any sort of discussion like that is good and strongly encouraged. I think we so do take advantage of that too. If there's anything you want to check over, discuss with the other players. I think the more communication we have between ourselves, the better, really. The other couple that I'll mention now that I think are quite useful. Fast forward can be used to basically skip over something. So this is kind of like a veil in Lines and Veils terms. You just want to say, okay, I don't want to go into an in-depth discussion about what happens here. Can we just move forwards? It might be like, I'm really not interested in going to the shops and buying a ladder for our exploration of the caves. Can we just, assume that we've done all that, assume we've got what we need? Or just the scene is getting a bit long and we just want to move on to something else. You can use fast forward. Rewind can be used for basically quick redos of stuff that's just happened. If you think, oh, actually, the way I said that, I don't like it. I think it doesn't make as much sense as I'd hoped. I came across as a bit aggressive, something like that. You can call a rewind to go over that, to sort of reverse back to before where that happened, and we'll carry on again. And frame by frame can be used in scenes where it may be that we're going to a scene that has some content that might be a bit sensitive to some people, and we just want to go over things a bit more slowly with frequent check-in so that everyone knows, and we're kind of constantly checking in that we're all happy with where a scene is going. Or it might be because we've got a big action scene with lots of people in different places doing stuff, and we want to just take it a bit more slowly so that everyone has a good mental image of where people are at and what's going on. So that's all of our safety tools done. Obviously, as I said, we're always free to just chime in if you have any issues or whatever. Always feel free to say, even if it's just directly to me in a message or whatever. But that's cool. So all that said and done, Brindlewood Bay. So where Brindlewood Bay has a moderately set session schedule, a sort of framework for how a session works out. We'll actually today will be slightly off book because we kind of did some of these elements at the end of our last session because we after our character creation. But in the normal case of things, if we had anything, we'll sort of have a quick recap of what happened last time. Obviously, last time we just mostly introduced characters. We just had little cozy vignettes. So that's not something we need to do. We need to do today. If we did end on a cliffhanger or some other thing that needs resolving, we'll sort of resolve those bits before we start anything new in a session. Though once again, not relevant for us today. Then we hit the official beginning of session phase, which is kind of where some characters will have moves that trigger in their beginning of session. I don't think that we do. I don't think anyone here currently has one that does. If I am wrong, do correct me, but I think I don't think we have anything that needs to be resolved about the beginning of session that way. The other thing that we will do as part of the beginning of session is, and I mentioned this last time, and I think people have chosen these, but I'd just like to quickly go through and just get what people have chosen said out loud. But everyone has on their playbook a number of questions that are called end of session questions. As you might intuit from that name, these are questions that come the end of the session, we will ask those questions and see what answers we get. For each question that you can answer for your character, you get a point of XP. One of these questions is always fixed, and that question is whether or not you solved a mystery this session. That one is always there. Every character always has that question, and that will be quite obvious whether or not a mystery has ended. You then get to choose 2 other questions. There's never any restriction. If you want to keep the same 2 questions every session, you can, though obviously part of the idea is you mix them up a bit so we explore different aspects of your character. So I'm just going to ask each of you to just let me know which 2 questions you have chosen for the session, and if there is like a specific thing that if as part of that question there is an element that you are really interested in us touching on in the session, feel free to let me know now as well, or let everyone know now, because it means that we can kind of angle scenes towards that. Otherwise we'll kind of, I'll to the best of my abilities, I will keep those questions in my mind as well. My job here isn't to try and stop you from being able to answer those. They're sort of in there to kind of give us all some guidance on what sort of scenes we want to be seeing as we play through. I'll get on a little bit more on how scenes will look in a moment. Muriel, what 2 questions have you chosen for today?
I have picked, did you behave like a woman half your age? And did you show someone that you've still got it?
Excellent. And Lexie, how about you?
Not used to hearing that name. I'm like, who's Lexie?
Yeah.
It's a new character. So I selected did you dote on someone, and did you show someone that you've still got it? Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything specific I think I want to see. There's like something I talked about a little bit at character generation where like I'm interested in exploring the supernatural side of the game, and obviously that will be less at the beginning and more as we go. But that like specifically for Lexie, it's about kind of like fear of death. Not necessarily of being old or aging. Like there's that motherhood piece that I think is important. Like maturity is important to her. She doesn't want to be a kid. Yeah. But anyway, so that's a general flag, I guess, that I'll.
Yeah, no, that's cool, and yeah, hopefully we'll see some of the creepy stuff coming out. I'll say, and obviously with the move you've taken, the Fox Mulder move, you can call for that scene anytime you want. Obviously, because of the mechanics of it, it's more beneficial if you do so once a void clue or 2 have already been discovered in that session. Yeah. But you can call that scene regardless.
And just a clarification about that move, actually.
Yeah,
so I think I get it, but I just want to make sure. So it says once per mystery. So once per mystery isn't once per session, right? Like because the mysteries overlap. I'm not quite.
Yeah. I am probably more inclined to treat that as 1 per session.
Much easier.
Certainly for the first few. So again, I kind of mentioned this last time, but I'll just reiterate again, just for clarity. I'll explain a couple of other bits about like how mysteries look and work as well as we start up. But the idea is as written, and which I will be to the best of my abilities, I will be sort of trying to follow the structure as written for my first playthrough of this. The idea is that we introduce a new mystery every session. That mystery won't necessarily get solved in that session. No, it is possible. But it's likely it will take more than 1 session to solve any individual mystery. But we will introduce a new mystery every session. So there will be kind of potentially a few mysteries. You'll be possibly investigating a few mysteries sort of in parallel with each other. How much you focus on any given one is obviously that's up to you. That's your choice. But the sort of the exception to that is that when we've got up to 3 concurrent mysteries, I won't introduce any new mysteries until one of those has been solved. But my gut instinct, without having actually played, obviously without having actually run it yet, is that I think, with the exception of maybe towards the latter stages, I would imagine we'll be getting a new mystery every week anyway. So, because I imagine by the time we've got around to like 4th session, we'll probably have resolved the first mystery. So
yeah. It was less about that and more about like, is it worth, especially if void clues are slow to come at the beginning, is it worth like saving it, not invoking it like in a session to do it like,
oh yeah, no, that
stuff
is a
like
good,
that.
yeah, that is
like
a good
that
point.
I could do it twice.
Have you? Sorry, I think you froze
Yeah,
up
it
a
looks
little
like
bit there,
Jesse's
Jesse.
frozen. Oh
Sorry.
no,
No,
I'm back. Sorry. Yes. I mean, I'm sorry we're spending so much time on this, but
no,
just
it's good to get these
use
things.
it. So like, if I didn't do it the first session and now there's 2 mysteries because we only have 1 void clue or whatever, there's 2 mysteries active the second session, I would still have, and we haven't solved the first mystery.
No, yeah, that's a good point. Actually, no, that is a good point. That would be, yeah. So we'll say it is once per mystery.
Okay, that was just what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no, that's a good
I'm
point,
happy to do once per session in terms of bookkeeping, but like, because that makes it easier. But if it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. And what we can do actually, because I've put in a little tab for clues in the character keeper, and I've split that out per mystery so that we can keep them straight. And what you can do, I guess, is just like on that clue list is just write down on that mystery when you've used your move on that.
This is super sweet, David. I didn't notice this tab before.
Yeah, no worries. I just thought it would be a good way of just keeping things, split out. Awesome. So that's cool. Yeah, thank you. I've lost my place in the character keeper now, unfortunately. Nellie, if you'd like to let us know which 2 questions you've chosen.
Yeah, I chose the "Did you behave like a woman half your age?" question, and "Did you dote on someone?"
Awesome. I like that we've got some kind of overlap and but different things in there. So that's awesome. So thank you for that, everyone. So yeah, what I will do now is one of the things last time we did do was I introduced in a very broad brush sense the mystery that we'll be investigating, or the mystery that will be taking place today, and with which your investigation will start. So this mystery is called the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off, and the premise of this is that the Jolly Good Baking Show, the most popular television program in the world, has come to Brindlewood Bay, and this is obviously very heavily based on the Great British Bake Off. So it's a kind of competitive baking contest that's televised. Today's show will be being recorded in Brindlewood Bay, and all of yourselves are, of course, amongst the bakers who have made it through to the televised portion of the show, where you will be your baking efforts will be judged on camera. And the way this is going to start, in a second I will frame out the first scene that depicts sort of how everything is going with the show. So what I want to do, like before we actually get into the meat of the game itself, into the meat of the gaming, I just want to do a bit of a explanation of some of the structure behind this, because I think it's useful for everyone to sort of know how this is going to kind of work in advance, really. So because I think it will help people play into it better. Most of these mysteries will start the same way, with a sort of like scripted is obviously not the right word, but with a kind of set opening situation,
like a set piece.
Yeah, exactly. That will kind of draw us into the mystery. From that point onwards, the once we've sort of got into the mystery itself, where you go and what you do will be very much up to you all as players. So you'll have quite a strong hand in like choosing what scenes you want to see. These scenes will broadly speaking come in two flavors. One of which is a sort of like a scene where you're investigating the mystery in some way, which will probably be the bulk of the scenes we see. And these are scenes very much like standard stuff for role-playing games. You want to say, oh, I want to break into someone's office and have a snoop around to see what there's hidden in there. We'll play that scene out. We'll find out some information. It's all good. The other type of scene that you have, this one's tied to a specific move, are the sort of cozy scenes. These are so I'll just check and I'm calling it by the right name. So yeah, there's a move called the cozy move, and I'll just quickly read this out. The sort of trigger for it, which is when you have an intimate moment with another maven while one of you is engaged in your cozy activity, and then you get to choose a couple of things. And these scenes will be kind of like more interpersonal scenes. So it will be a chance for you to frame a scene with another of the player characters that you're interested in sharing some time with. The sort of the framing mechanic for this will be one of your cozy activities or one of your hobbies, essentially, that you're engaged with, and whether this is like just the two of you as part of some bigger community thing. But we'll focus in on sort of the relationship between your characters and how they get on with stuff, and that will be our kind of give some of the heart to our series, as it were. So broadly speaking, those are the two types of scenes we'll be looking at. This particular investigation has a couple of slightly more scripted elements to it. Sometimes I may hard frame some scenes as well, particularly when once if there are bad outcomes to some of your roles, that may kick off events that I might sort of hard frame you into it. But like I said, a lot of the onus when it comes to scene framing and stuff, I will be looking to you to tell us how your character's engaging with the mystery and stuff like that. So that's something I think is quite important to get out there straight away. The other big thing that's because it's very much gives the mysteries their structure. Is there is another move called the theorize move. This theorize move is basically used to tie up the clues that you have found throughout the game and to come up with your solution to the mystery. And again, this is something I like. I think it's important that this isn't like a thing that I'm going to try and hide from you as players, because it's pointless. That's not how the game works. This game, there is no canon solution to any of the mysteries. I do not have the sort of Cluedo style. It was Miss Scarlet in the conservatory with the lead pipe. It is up to you to present the solution that you have come together as a group and decided on to the mystery. What will then happen is we'll roll this, as I say, this theorize move, which will tell us whether your theory is correct or how correct it is. If that roll fails, then that theory was presumably not correct, and then you'll have to deal with some fallout. If you get a success on that roll, then the theory that you have presented is true. It is you have found the right answer. The way this is treated is essentially when you feel like you've got enough ideas, you can get together and have a discussion. And that can either be an in-character discussion, or it can just be like you as players talking about what you think might be going on based on the clues that you found. And that will trigger that move. Very specifically with that move, it is a sort of a meta narrative move. It is not rolled by a single character. It is rolled on behalf of you as players. It has its own special mechanics. The most significant element of this move is that what you roll for it is, as everything else, you roll 2d6. but then you add the number of clues that you've discovered for that mystery and subtract the complexity of the mystery. So for the mystery we're going to be looking at today, the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off, that is a complexity 7 mystery. So what that means is that you will be essentially, currently, if you roll that theorize move with no clues, you would be rolling at -7. So to get up to an even 0, you need to have discovered 7 clues about this mystery. Discovering more will obviously give you a bigger bonus, and will be more. It will be more likely that your theory is correct. So that's sort of what you're aiming. That is essentially what the aim of an investigation is. Is getting enough clues to both enough clues so that you as players can come up with a solution, and then to roll those dice so that you get the answer, and to prove that answer is the correct one. So that's sort of what you'll be building towards. And the way you find clues is basically by interacting with stuff in the game, and you will find a number of different clues. There is a specific type of clue which we've kind of alluded to already, called the void clue. These are signs that something out of the ordinary or something supernatural is going on. Something explicitly supernatural is taking place. These void clues can only be discovered, normally anyway, can only be discovered if you roll a 12 or up on the medal move, which we'll get onto once we get into some scenes. If you get a 12 up, but then you can also learn something about the weirdness that lurks below the surface of the town. This also feeds into another mechanic called the dark conspiracy, wherein the more void clues you discover, the more you learn about what's actually going on behind the scenes. We'll come on to all that stuff later, because it's a little bit more ancillary to the main thrust of it, but it will form an increasingly large part of the game. So said you'll be out looking for clues. The primary method of finding clues is the medal move. This is basically a catch-all move for doing something that will get you some information about the mystery. That might be researching stuff at the library. That might be sneaking around in a and in someone's office and like rifling through their drawers. It may even be coincidentally just happening to overhear someone having a heated argument. Anything like that can be a medal move, and rolling on that, basically rolling a success on that, will get you a clue. There's obviously some complications depending on exactly how well you succeed or not, but that is broadly how it works. The only other move to speak of is there is a day and a night move, which are rolled depending on whether it's day or night. That's sort of your general risky activities that aren't specifically about getting clues. We'll go into those in more detail when they come up, and I'll at that point as well introduce the other 2 important things that we have to look at. But as I say, it's a fairly short list of basic moves in this game. So I hope that gives everyone an impression of what we're going to be looking at today. With that said, we're going to go into the first scene of our first mystery, the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off. So as I said, it's assumed that you will all be taking part in the Bake Off. And our first scene will be the opening round of the competition, which is pies and the baking thereof. So the way this scene is going to work, I'll introduce it properly in a moment. We'll go through each of you, who will introduce tell us the sort of the pie that you have baked for this contest. Then the player to your left, so in this case the player to your left in the character keeper, and then looping round, obviously, will be will determine whether your pie is a triumph or rather disappointing, and that will kind of feed into the judging of the contest. The exception to this is that because Muriel's cozy activity is baking, their creations will always be considered a triumph because this is what they're good at. But yeah, so the opening scene, there is, and I think that the famous Jolly Good Baking Show marquee has been set up just at like the top of the beach, on sort of like a patch of grass just before it fades down into the sand and shale of the shoreline. It's a pleasantly sunny day. It's probably about this sort of time of year, so just like edging out of spring towards summer. There's still maybe that just slight nip in the air, especially here on the coast. The wind is sort of rustling at the skirts of the tent, and inside things are going apace as you're in the midst of your baking. There's a lot of sort of B-roll and stuff being shot at the moment, as the cameramen sort of going around catching shots of you in action, views through the window of the oven as the pies begin to bake and go golden under the heat. So I'm going to the people. So the people here who you are all very familiar with are the hosts of the show. These are Sue Mellon and Timothy Bush, who are the presenters of the show. They're both kind of humorous. They have backgrounds in comedy, as well as sort of their presenting jobs. Then there are the two judges who are skilled bakers in their own rights. Jane Leaf, an elderly English lady, and Paul Rivera, the sort of silver fox judge. Also, the other person who you will recognise is one of the other contestants is a man called Scott Lamb, who was a contestant on the show a couple of years ago, and has been sort of brought back in as a ringer, as it were, on this episode to generate a bit of heat. He was particularly famous for having a fairly volatile on-camera argument with Paul. There are those are sort of the faces who you are immediately recognise, and I am going to start. I think I'm going to start with. We'll come to Lexie first, I think, and we'll hear about the pie that you're making. So I think Sue will come up to you as you're in the midst of your process, and say, "Hey, hey, Lexie. So, can you tell us what have you got? What have you got in the oven for us today?"
Well, sure. And you can see I'm sort of chopping asparagus as I'm saying this. Well, so I know people think pie and they think sweet pies, they think fruit pies, all these different kinds of, dessert pies. But I said, we're here in Brindlewood Bay. The bay's right there. Make a savory pie with something local fish. So I'm making a classic New England fish pie. This recipe came down to me from my great, I don't even know how many great aunts. Um, uh, a couple generations after the Mayflower. We've been baking this pie in my family for years, but the cracker top is the crumbly cracker top is actually my innovation.
Well, that certainly sounds cracking. I do love a nice nice bit of fish pie. That's always been a particular predilection of mine. So I do hope to get a taste of that later. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lexie. And well, let's hope that the judges are as wowed by your adventurous take on the theme, and she'll kind of give you a kind of half hug over the shoulder, so you can both look at the camera as she does so, and we'll sort of move on around. Meanwhile, over at one of the other counters, we will see Nellie as she's getting to work on her creation, as Timothy Bush comes over, and he says, "Hey Nellie, how's it going? What have we got in the oven today?"
And Nellie's kind of just like very calmly chopping something. She's like, well, normally I'm not one for pies. I tend to prefer brownies. And kind of like smirks to herself. So I figured combine best of both worlds. I'm going to make a pie with a rich and decadent fudge filling. As she's like chopping chocolate to like get into a double boiler.
Well, I hope that's all that's in there, and he'll give a big wink, and he says, not that I haven't been known to indulge in a little of the other in my time, if you know what I mean. But I guess we should keep things above board and on the level here, right? Like a good flan. And he'll kind of gurn at the camera a bit, as and I think we'll see Sue over with one of the other over, in fact, with Scott Lamb, the contestant. He's got kind of a frilly apron on, and his hair sort of like sculpted in an impressive wave, and he's definitely got that look of slightly more experienced in being in front of the camera than the average contestant. And the two of them are chatting about the pie that he's got baking, which is like a sort of pecan pie with like crystallized pecans on top, and it's all very glittering and gleaming. But then I think Sue will then move on to to Muriel. So hey, Muriel, isn't it? Well, we've heard great things about your your creations so far in the rounds up to this point. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've got in store for us today?
Yeah, Muriel is chopping pears, and as she is talking, she's not really actually stopping chopping pears, like without even looking. She's just going through them. Uh, oh, it's nothing more than I do on an average Saturday morning. Just a bit of frangipane base, filleted pears, nicely spread out in a nice looking kind of spread over the top. Nothing more than I do on a usual Saturday.
Well, I certainly. I mean, who doesn't love a nice juicy pear? That's nice. I'm glad to see that's we've got a nice fruit pie here in the offing.
I see some of the folks here aren't doing fruit pies, and I think that's very that's very well. If I have to be frank, I don't think it's really a pie without fruit in it.
Well, I mean, I get some flack back home. I mean, we do enjoy a nice steak and kidney pie from time to time. But I'm with you. I like a nice fruit pie, and I'm looking forward to giving yours a taste later on. And she'll sort of smile again and move on as we see her. As you're sort of continuing to make your entry. So I think actually, because we're just coming up to the hour now, so what we'll do is I think we'll take a first break now. Come back at 5 past, and then we'll determine the outcome of our initial round. And get some of the judging in, and we'll see what happens next. Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
Perfect.
Cool. So yeah, welcome back, everyone. And we'll quickly go into the judging phase of the first round now. So as I say, we will start off. We will go by the person to the left in the character keeper. Will determine the outcome of your thing with, as I said, the exception of Muriel, whose pie will obviously be a triumph. But we'll still ask. We'll start off by asking. So it will be Lexie's. Sorry, I'm confusing myself now. So yeah, it will be Lexie's pie, the asparagus and fish pie, and Muriel. How does this come out? Is it a triumph, or is is it rather disappointing?
Well, it's like, well, the flavors are all good, but and I do would like the consistency of the filling, but and he kind of lifts the underside and he runs his fork along it. It does have a bit of a soggy bottom. And
it's always a risk with the fish pie because of all the cream and butter and just the liquidy substances. I'd say like 3 out of 4 times I get it, and I guess this was the 4th.
Jane will look and say, yes, that is it's certainly the one of the soggier bottoms I've seen so far today. That's I wonder, my dear, if next time you might consider maybe baking the pie blind a little first to firm it up and give it that nice crisp crust that we're looking for here. I must say the filling is rather good, and I do like this rather quaint usage of the crackers on top to take the place of a traditional pie lid. That is ingenious. And Paul will say, yes, that's it's a good effort, all told. Thank you, Muriel. Sorry, thank you, Lexie. I do rather like this, and I think it's a bold and an adventurous choice. But I think given given the quality of what we've got in here today, I think you're going to be up against some stiff competition. So next it will be we'll look at Nellie's pie and yeah, and so sorry, Nellie's brownie pie. So that will be Lexie, if you would like to tell us whether it's a triumph or somewhat disappointing. Oops, so I think your mute's on.
I thought I was unmuting. The brownie piece came out fantastic. They're probably some of the best brownies that these judges have had on their show, but they don't understand why it needs a crust exactly. Sorry, the dog is, but
okay.
they don't understand why it needs a crust exactly, and the crust is fine, but they feel it sort of takes away from these fantastic brownies.
And yeah, and I think Paul will take a bite and say, "Yeah, this is an excellent brownie. You definitely got that right, but I wonder if this might not have been a better entry in a different round. I feel that this is a very I can't blame you." And he kind of gives a sort of like grin and a bit of a wink, and he says, "You're certainly a sly one, Nellie, trying to play up to your strengths, which this brownie definitely is. But I think for the pie round, it's just not quite giving us what we want." And Jane will say, "Yes, indeed, it's rather excellent texture on the brownie. I love that moist, squidgy, gooey feeling, but the pastry just feels like it's unnecessary here. It's rather a gilding of the lily, if I do say so." And then there's just like a quick shot of like to Timothy, just like cramming a huge slice of it like messily into his mouth, and just sort of like mumbling as we move on. So I think next we're going to they move on to Scott Lamb's pie, which, as I said, is this sort of crystallized pecan pie extravaganza. It's got the sort of the it has it's obviously the sort of standard pecan pie sort of filling, but then with these glazed pecans on top, they're all like perfectly shiny and caramelized. And sort of like little very light lattice work pastry in between them in this sort of elegant display. Paul, takes a bite from it and says, "Well, Scott, we've had a chance to see your work before, and I have to say this." You've definitely learned from your past experiences. This is a nice. This has got a nice firm bottom on it. This one, as he takes a bite out of it, and Jane nods and says, "Yes, rather good, Scott. This is a. I think personally, there's a bit too much going on with this one for my tastes. I think you've tried to combine a couple of different pies in one with this, and I think rather the clarity of a good pecan pie is in its simplicity and excellence. And whilst I can't argue with how nice this one is, I think that you're trying maybe a bit too hard, and kind of scowl. Not he doesn't scowl, but there's that kind of, you can see in his eyes that he kind of like harden up a bit at the two judgments. Though he maintains his kind of bright smile, and says, "Well, I've tried to take on what I learned last time I was on the show, and I'm so glad to be here again and to have a chance to visit the lovely town of Brindlewood Bay, it's rather a lovely experience anyway. However, I do in the contest." They kind of move on. The other contestant here who have not seen, or who I've not mentioned yet anyway, I should say, is Melanie Blair. She's a resident of Brindlewood Bay. You may be aware of her. She's younger than yourselves. She's probably kind of in her 30s, maybe late 30s, early 40s, something like that. You are aware that her parents used to own the Sweet Sensations Bakery in town, though it closed down a couple of years back. And she has produced a classic, American style apple pie, which has a good pastry, and then there's apples inside. And Paul says, yes, this is nice classic here. It's good to see an old classic done well. I do enjoy just seeing a nice tart well done. And he nods, and we'll move around to Muriel. Sorry, I'm struggling with names today, as ever. But yes, so Muriel, we already know that your pie will turn out a triumph. So how does it look as it comes out of the oven?
Well, it's kind of has the pears like lovelily flat, kind of flared out in a fan, like the slices flared out in a fan on top of the bed of frangipane in the crust, sitting. And I think I've probably added some other smaller fruits to like complement and decorate the top.
And Jane will be the first. Yes, this is a lovely piece you have here, Muriel. This the frangipane looks perfectly crisped up on top, but nice and soft in the center still. The fruit's beautifully arranged. Just take a bite. Very, very good fruits. The fruit locally grown, dear.
Oh yes, of course.
Excellent. There's nothing quite like nice, fresh local produce. I find, of course, back home, I do like to go out and pick the pears down from the trees in my little garden. It's nothing quite like it. Make an excellent jam. And Paul sort of will kind of nod and say, yes, this is top-notch stuff here, Muriel. Excellent, an excellent take on the classic pear tart. This is a very strong entry indeed, and I think that there'll be some kind of conferring between them, and then they'll say, yes, well, I think we've all had a discussion here amongst us judges, and I think in this first round we have to give it to Muriel's pear and frangipane tart pie. Is an excellent take on it. So a nice mix of inventiveness, but solid talent and skill. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing what you have to bring to us in the next round, which will be our cake round, an old favorite, and I'm sure one that you all have some excellent things to bring to. The contest is still wide open at this point, so I hope everyone brings their best game. And he'll kind of nod, at which point the producer, so kind of you've seen he's been busy around all day, comes in and up next to the cameraman and goes, and okay, we've got everything, thank you very much. We'll be taking a break now, so Paul, Jane, you can get off now if you want and take a bit of a break. He'll turn around to the contestants and say, we'll just want to keep a couple of you in to fill in some reaction shots with Timothy and Sue. So if you can stand ready, we'll get right on that. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Right. And then he'll sort of move off and start giving further orders to people to start breaking down bits of set and covering stuff up and other such things. His name is Heath Hendricks, by the way. You will have all been introduced to him before.
That's Heath with an H?
That's right, yep. Heath. Cool. So there will be and I think he goes off and you actually see him talking to another lady, not one of the contestants. In fact, you will know that she is Paul Riviera's wife, Donna. She's got like big, fancily done up and curled blonde hair, lots of leopard print. She's a reality TV star in her own right, or at least was a few years back, in The Real Housewives of Liverpool. And the two of them are kind of having a discussion over something as they're doing it. The cameraman is sort of coming around to get some shots in. I think first we'll have be a moment where Sue and Timothy both come over to Muriel and say, well, Muriel, that was an excellent showing. It's rare that we get such nice words from Paul. I'm sure. Are you as surprised as the rest of us that he took to your pie so with such so warmly?
Well, of course, you're always surprised, and in her head, she's not, but, you have to say that. I just come here and try to make my best, and I'm just glad that he liked it.
Well, he certainly did, and I must say yours was an absolute delight to get my teeth around that, my love. That was a cracking bit of baking there. Absolutely top drawer. Now, can you give us any sneak peeks as to what we might see in the next round from you?
Oh dear, I don't want to give away all my secrets just yet, and I give him a wink.
Ah, excellent. Well, I guess we'll all just have to stay in the dark on that one until later on. But we'll look forward to seeing your next entry, my dear. And they'll kind of break away and start shifting around. The other contestants are sort of putting the stuff away, variously sulking or the like. And as things kind of start to break out a bit, does anyone wish to have words with either each other or with one of the other people here in the scene? The two NPC contestants that we've introduced are Scott Lamb, who is lamb as in the animal, who is a returning contestant. He was on the show about 3 years back, before having an argument with Paul, and Melanie Blair, who is actually a local lady. She lives in Brindlewood Bay, whereas Scott is an import for this episode. The other people that you know by name here, I'll give you them all now. As I said, the producer, whose name is Heath Hendricks, the cameraman Buck, who has been obviously doing most of the filming here, and as I said, Paul's wife, Donna. So
I've noted them all over in the
cool.
Suspect tab.
Brilliant, thank you. But yeah, so so Lexie, did you want to have a chat with anyone, or have anything else you'd like to do?
Let's see. Shame to hear about the soggy bottom, and I give her a chuck in the shoulder that's probably a bit too hard.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm okay at this. Not everyone could be you. I mean, let's face it. But I made 3 practices. They all had perfect crispy bottoms. That was my mistake. Make 4. Let one of them have the soggy bottom, and then the one today would have come out perfect. Well, we do what we can. Right?
It happens, and in her head, not to me, but it happens.
It happens.
Awesome.
I just wanted to have that.
Yeah, no, you deserve it. You deserve it.
Cool.
But I'll have you over next week. You'll taste what it's supposed to taste like without the soggy bottom.
Of course. I give you a hug, and again, it's a little too tight.
Actually, I'm going to ask: do you, because we could, if you want to, make this a cozy move, because we are kind of engaging in Muriel's cozy activity. If you would like to, we don't have to, but if you'd like to sort of engage that move, we can bring that in now.
What are I don't have the rules right open in front
No,
of me. What are the mechanical?
Fine. So basically, for the cozy move, when you have an intimate moment with another Maven, one of you is engaged in your cozy activity. So as I say, you do have to be engaged in one of your cozy activities. But like I said, because yours is baking, this would absolutely count, I think, at this stage. Basically, the person whose activity it is gets 2 choices off the list. The other person gets 1 choice. And the choices that you get to make are: you can ask the other player a question about their maven that they have to answer truthfully and completely. The other maven agrees on a particular course of action, or if they don't do that, and then if they don't do that, they gain a condition. Or you can clear an appropriate condition. Obviously, no one has one yet. Also, if it's your activity, you can also choose to stumble on a clue relevant to an active mystery, and you get to tell me what that clue is.
I don't even know the mystery yet, so I'm not going to pick that.
No, that's fair.
It feels like we need to have a little bit more.
No, that's
really before engaging.
Oh,
that's cool.
I would love to ask you a question, but I feel like the other choices aren't really.
okay.
Yeah, sure.
Does that make sense? I mean, we could do it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
No, that's cool. That's cool. No, we can come back to that later. There, unsurprisingly,
we will
as well,
be baking this
there will be
entire
more.
session.
Exactly. Yeah. No worries. So yeah, Nellie, is there anything you wish to do before we sort of move on to the next bit, or are you?
No, nothing that I needed to do. If anything, as like Muriel and Lexie are kind of having their conversation and, you know, kind of like one-upping each other, Nellie's just in the background, like eating her pie and trying bites of Muriel's pie. And it's just like, God damn, that's good.
Nice. I like it. So yeah, as I say, there's a bit of like moving about, people going out and you know, getting drinks and various other stuff, and it's getting towards you know, Heath, the producer, will have come back in, and so that's okay. Everyone, can we start getting towards places? We'll start the baking in about half an hour's time, but we just want to get everyone into position, make sure everyone's got all their kit ready to go, touch up makeup, all this, and you know, people start sort of scurrying around and getting stuff ready, when Donna bursts into the marquee, looking somewhat distressed, and she says, "It's Paul. I think he's dead." And you know, there will be a shocked moment as people like turn around to sort of look at her, and said, "I found him face down on the floor of his trailer. It's awful. I don't know what's happened to him." Yeah, and there will be, I think, a general like movement of people like running out of the tent to go and see what's happened.
Oh yeah, I book it.
Yeah.
I want. Like, ooh, a mystery. It's just like the books.
Indeed, it is. So yeah, as I say, there is a crowd gathering around. Well, a small crowd. It's only the people that are actually here, but there is a small crowd gathering outside the trailer. It's parked just in like the you know, one of the little car parks by the beach. There is, when you sort of look in, you can see Paul is lying kind of not quite face down, but you know, sort of collapsed onto the floor of the trailer. There is some flour sort of dusted over his face and his neat silver beard, and his hands have been tied behind his back with like some like looks like some nylon cord or something, but it's been like very nicely tied. It's a very it's been tied quite tied both well and like decoratively, rather than just a sort of workman like knot. Yes. So, what would you like to do?
Always expected Jane would be the one to go first.
This is very sad, right? This is, and you can see that there's like a, she's like trying not to cry.
Yeah. And Heath is sort of stood nearby, and he's like, this is awful. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'll be the first to admit he could be a real pain to work with, but I mean, I can't imagine anyone would want anything like this for him. This is a nightmare. It really is. I mean, I guess we'll have to get the police down here and well, all that stuff. And he's sort of pulling out his phone. And he's like, I think maybe it would be for the best, just for everyone, if we just keep going with the show for now. I think it's what he'd want.
I accidentally trip into him when he takes his phone out.
Sure thing. Yes. So that sounds like I'm guessing. So I'm guessing here your intent is to see if you can find out something like on his phone or something that might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, this will be the medal move. So the medal move is, as I mentioned, what's used for or the meddling move, I should say, is what's used for basically finding out information, gathering clues. We will most of the in fact, I don't think any of the moves in this game are tied to a particular stat. So we will determine which stat you wish to roll for this. So as I say, in general, vitality is for sort of doing like physical type stuff. Composure is the role for like keeping your cool and that sort of thing. Reason is obviously like logically working stuff out. Presence is being like charismatic and bending people to your will, as it were. Sensitivity is sort of mystical stuff. I would say that I reckon this is probably a composure role here, as it's about kind of acting sort of decisively and like with that sort of intent, if that sounds good to you.
Okay, I was also thinking vitality, but they're the same thing.
Vitality would also work, I think. Yeah, no, and if they're saying, that's cool. So with that, you'll just roll 2d6 plus your vitality.
That is an 8.
So okay, on an 8, there is a complication, either with the clue itself, or a you will be finding a clue. That will happen, but there will be some sort of complication that either in with the clue itself, or like what happens when you're finding it out. So I think that as you are um, looking at the as you're kind of as you bump into him, you will see, like, as he's swiping across and going to call the number, you will see that there is a message on there from, it's clearly from one of the somebody working on the show. It's saying that, you know, they really need a pay rise. Another job they've was supposed to be working on hasn't come through, and they're really kind of you know, they you know, they've been putting in a lot of hard work on the show, and they don't think it's fair that they're not being as well compensated. And you know, they think it's time that they get a rise, but just because of like the way it is on the screen, you can't actually see who that message is from, and that's sort of the complication in there. But you know that, yes, definitely somebody involved in the show is in some sort of financial difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, he'll sort of swipe over into the phone itself, and you know, he'll call the police, and you can hear him, like, yeah, reporting this to the sheriff. Nellie, how are you reacting to this?
She would probably, like, when she sees Lexie kind of start to choke up and, you know, try and hold away her tears, like pull out one of her obnoxiously bright paisley handkerchiefs and like hand it to her, like, you know, chin up, like, now's no time to cry, like, we might need to help here, there might be a mystery afoot, that's exciting. I'm gonna see how the that Donna lady that found him is doing, and she'll try and find Donna if she can.
Yeah, and yeah, Donna is kind of she's like leaning up against the side of the trailer. She's you know, sobbing into she's got some tissue that she's kind of very, very carefully dabbing at her eyes with, as she says, oh, it's horrible, I can't believe that my poor husband, what's happened to him?
You poor thing, you must just be a mess right now. You know, this isn't anything you need to see. If you want to wait inside until the police take care of this, that's more than okay.
Oh, maybe that would be for the best. Yeah, and I think she'll kind of I think she'll kind of almost like take your arm and I think head back towards the marquee and find somewhere to kind of sit down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she'd find a chair for her, like sit her down, probably take out her makeup compact so she can check her makeup, make sure it didn't ruin anything. I guess since she's kind of worried about that to a degree. Do you know any reason why this might be happening?
Oh, I can't think of anything. I don't know why anyone would want to would want to do something like this to him.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with this myself personally, but I've, you know, read some books and watched some movies. A lot of times the police might ask, like, if he had any enemies or anyone who wanted him dead. Like, that might be something you want to start thinking about when you talk to them.
Yeah,
and she'll kind of try and like lead her for information to be like, you know, you should start thinking about this, but like, what do you have to say about it?
Certainly. So yeah, if you would like to make me a so we'll go for another roll on the meddling move, I think. And if you'd like to, I think this is probably going to be with presence, as you're kind of appealing to, as you're kind of like, yeah, as you say, leading her a bit, and so on.
So that is a 6, and I have no presence.
Sure thing. So on though actually that said, I think you should have an extra point in your stats that you got at the start of play. So if you want to put that into your presence now, you can, though you are by no means required to.
Yeah, I think I put it into composure.
I think composure and reason both start at 1. So you should have an additional point on top of that.
Oh, my composure is at 2.
Okay, sure thing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. That's where the confusion came in. Sorry about that. That's
no, you're good.
I was looking at the wrong column. Cool. Yeah. No worries. So yeah, yes. So on a 6, we will have a complication arise. I think we're going to cut away from you for the moment, though. We'll come back in and see what that complication is shortly. So we are going to go. I think going to flash back to Lexie. What are you doing whilst this is going on?
Yeah, so I think sort of in the hubbub, I'm going to sort of just like boldly walk into the crime scene like I belong there, and there's no danger at all, of course, and look around before the police get there and cordon it off.
Yep, certainly. No one really has the at the moment has the presence of mind to stop you. So you can go ahead and do that. So if you're looking around the crime scene, my instinct is that this is probably going to be a reason roll on the meddling move.
Yeah, can you just give me like a surface description of it?
Yeah, certainly. Mm-hmm. So as I say, this is this is obviously like a trailer that has been set up for stay. It's that sort of it's probably a decent enough trailer that's they've made some effort to make a bit more like homely and stuff, but it's obviously a fairly sort of stock thing. It's not elaborate and luxurious. It's inside. It's got signs that are probably like people have been sort of living in here for a little while whilst they've been on the rest of their tour. Or at least kind of spending the time here. Well, on the shoots, they probably stay in hotels for the actual like their accommodation. But yeah, it's there's some like bits of script and stuff left out on the table. There's some books on various bakery, some books on cookery. A couple of them are books that have been written by Paul Revere himself. There's some like there's a sort of makeup kit sort of stashed on one of the couches. As I say, the actual, in terms of the actual crime scene itself, Paul is lying kind of like almost in the recovery position, sort of like almost face down, but not quite. So his head's still up a bit. There's flour over his face, and like I said, his hands are tied behind his back with nylon cord. That's kind of what you get for the vague, just the quick glance over the crime scene.
Yeah. So I think what I actually like want to make sure to do is take a closer look at the like body and its immediate vicinity. So like rather than like I'm not like sort of looking around the trailer for like things about Paul's life, but I'm looking for sort of like physical evidence of like what happened to him, the clues, right? We have the where, the what, like what murder weapon, like did that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure thing.
Evidence of like what's around him, like what about maybe he might have pulled something from the attack or whatever.
Yeah, sure thing.
Reason roll, you said?
Yeah, I think reason is probably that's the kind of like noticing details and the like.
Oof. I wish I could have kept this roll that I rolled to generate the dice, because that's a pair of sixes. Yeah, it's stats. It's plus the stat, right? Plus
yeah,
reason.
That's right.
Well, this is a 9, which is
A
much
9.
less exciting than boxcars.
Sure thing. What I will actually we'll come back to this this with a moment with you, Joel, with Nellie, but one of the things that you do always have as an option, and you don't necessarily need to use it now, just while I think of it, is you have the crown move, it's called. This basically means that at any point you can declare, after a roll has been made, and in fact after a roll has been resolved, you can declare that you wish to use your crown move, which like bumps the result of that roll by one stage. So if you rolled a 6 minus, it would take it up to 7 to 9, and the 7 to 9 would take it up to 10. On a 10, it would take it up to a 12 plus. So that you always have that option open to you. There are a limited number of times that you can use this crown move, because each time you use the crown move, you have to mark off one of the boxes on either the crown of the void or the crown of the queen. This will have various effects. With the crown of the queen, you can mark those in any order you want, but with the crown of the void, you have to mark them in order. The crown of the queen these are all basically scenes to demonstrate something about how your character relates to womanhood, femininity, essentially, and the stuff like that. So that some of them are flashbacks, some of them are scenes in the present day. When you mark one of these, basically what that means is by the end of the session, you have to have given us this little scene, and they're just like little vignette scenes, essentially, to fulfill those requirements. They won't necessarily, you don't have to do it straight away, but we will ask you to that, probably usually towards the end of the session. The Crown of the Void is a little bit different. Each level of that opens up a new, I'll call it an ability, but there's a list of these in the book, which each one of them does. Or in fact, if you hover over the on the character keeper, it's in like the notes for each of those cells. But they have sort of specific effects. So those are things that you can do. You are not, you'd say you don't have to do it now. And in fact, to be honest, in general, like going from a 7 to 9 to a 10 plus on a meddling roll is probably not the most useful use of it, because you're going to get a clue anyway. There just might be some side effects to that. But as I say, you get to make the choice after I tell you how the roll comes out. So if you decide, after I give you this clue and tell you what happens, if you then decide actually you want to use the crown of the void, or the crown of the queen, then you can do so. This is possibly going to be of more impact when we get back to Nellie in a moment, but we'll see. So yeah, we will. So the clue, anyway. Sorry, I'm losing myself in explanations. You will discover that as you bend down over Paul, you'll notice there's flour kind of dusted over his face. Not sure exactly where from. There's you haven't noticed any flour in here particularly, but as you're sort of looking down at him, there is like some froth at the corner of his mouth. It's like I said, like spittle that's sort of in a froth, and there's maybe some flecks of blood in it. And as you get close to him, there's just that scent of bitter almond coming off of not off of his breath, but sort of hanging around his mouth. But I think the complication is as you're doing this, and you kind of get close down to him, you sort of put one of your hands down next to you on the carpet, and you will notice that obviously you must have picked up some flour from his face, and you've left a set of floury fingerprints on the carpet next to his body.
Okay, yeah, I think I do the best I can to kind of like smudge those quickly. As I get, well, no, I don't actually. I think, right, I walked in confidently. Everyone saw me walk in. Right, I walk out as I walk out again, making a comment to, is there anyone else still around, or has the whole area been vacated?
I think most people are still kind of hanging. They're probably not like gathered around the door like they were when you first came onto the scene. They've probably kind of like broken up into like little groups talking about what's happening with each other. But they're still broadly hanging around here, with obviously the obvious exception of Donna and Nellie.
Yeah, so I think I say to, as I'm walking out, I say to Jane, who's I sort of like I wipe my face as if there's a tear, and I say, it's just so sad I had to go in and pay my last respects. I lost my husband not too long ago, and well, life is so fragile, isn't it?
Yes, it's a most shocking turn of events. I could not believe that such a thing would happen. I mean, do you think it's possible that it's natural? It certainly seemed odd. The ropes, if nothing else.
I mean, I certainly don't know. I'm just a retired housewife, but the ropes do seem fairly conclusive. I would think. He didn't tie himself up. At the very least, somebody had to do that.
Yes, that's terrible business. I've worked with a man for years, and well, I know I've certainly heard more than one person saying that they'd like to see him dead, but well, not in a way that made me ever believe it, you know.
What do you mean? I'd love.
Well,
I would. I know it's none of my business. I know, but I would love to hear more.
well, he could rub people up the wrong way, you know. Somewhat of a prickly customer at times, overbearing, you could say. And well,
Okay, but that doesn't sound like what you just said before. What were your words? You said something about you implied that there might be people who dislike him enough to do this on purpose.
oh well, I mean, I've heard people say, oh,
Well,
you know, I'll kill
what
that
people?
man if I, oh, just you know,
Come on,
and
Jane.
no, but I mean, you know, in the manner of speak that one might say, oh, well, if I could get my hands on him, I'd give him a piece of my mind. You know what I mean? Not like serious death threats.
I sort of like put my hand on her shoulder and I say, look, we're not young women. I know losing a work partner can be hard, but we've both lost people before. I'm sure. I actually want to check in for a second. I realize that we've got some ask first and veils around grief related stuff. So I just want to like check in. I realize I'm like leaning on that kind of heavily in this conversation. So I make sure everybody's comfortable with it before I keep going.
Yeah,
And
no, sure thing.
Joel, are you
We're
good? Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to check. So yeah, so I but I also think, certainly in my long life, when I've heard people say that, you know when they mean it and when they don't. So did they mean it, which is what it sounded like you said before, or did they not really?
I don't think so. No, I don't think anyone really wanted any harm to come. Well, I mean, she's going to kind of gesture towards the trailer. I
Right.
suppose
I mean,
clearly someone did, but
right. I mean, I'm trying to push for the meddling move here.
yeah, no, that of
Yeah.
course, yeah, go for it. And I think again, this is probably presence here.
Sure.
Yeah, I think probably presence because I think this is more leaning on you. Yeah, like I said, leading her rather than
Yeah. No,
just.
this is 100% that. 100% like me sort of trying to use charisma and sort of shared experience of some kind. Okay, it's +0, and it is a 7 + 0.
Cool.
There's like those dice blinking. I'm like, oh no, it's a yes, it is.
Yeah, awesome. So, I think that she will sigh and say, look, it's hardly my place to talk about this, and it's probably nothing, and the last thing I'd want to do is to cause any problems for the poor woman. But I think that Donna and Paul's relationship has been more tense than usual of late. Something has clearly been up. They've been arguing more frequently, and it's do not get me wrong. I think it's hardly. This doesn't seem like the sort of thing I can imagine from dear Donna. She's well, you know, she's
she's a scouse wife, yeah.
she's made what she could of her life, and I don't blame her for it. But No, I don't. This isn't really her style, I wouldn't say, but there's definitely something causing tension between them, and well, they do always say, don't they? It's so there's always the first people to get investigated is the spouse, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks. I'm just so shook up by all this. It just gets the gears in my head turning. You know, I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Awesome. And yeah, the what I'm going to put in there as the complication is that so obviously you do have this clue that there does seem to have been tension in the marriage that's what I'm going to say is complication with that is that yeah, you definitely get the impression that Jane does not approve of Donna, and that might be colouring her, you know, how significant that is, but it is definitely a thing. You know, it's that there are certainly tensions in their marriage. Cool. So, and yeah, I think actually we've just gone past the hour, so we'll take another 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll see what's happening with Nellie back in the marquee. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, awesome. So, welcome back, and as I said, we will leap back to Nellie inside the marquee with Donna. So yeah, you've been sat there talking to Donna, and you know, she seems, like I said, you know, there's obviously just a lot of kind of like her, you know, just sort of saying about her husband and how terrible all this is, and you kind of get the feeling that she's like gathering herself a bit more, and it's going to speak when they're you know, you can hear the sound of the tent flap opening again, and Sheriff Dalrymple walks in. You'll know the man. He's the Brindlewood Bay town sheriff. He's an older man. He's probably of an age with some of you, quite stocky, in a sort of impressive whiskers and tight, somewhat tight uniform, with a big hat, and comes in and says, well, this is Miss Riviera, Mrs. Riviera, I suppose. Ma'am, can I ask you to come with us, and we'll have a little talk about what's happened with your husband. I believe you was the one who found the body. And he sort of stood there. He's, you know, obviously like, he sort of stood there, like, this is obviously isn't like an arrest, and he's showing some sympathy. But Don will look a little startled and say, of course, officer, I'll come with you. Yeah, he's going to take Donna away for well, you know, not for questioning, but for you know, to go and kind of go over the initial details. As I say, if you wish, at this point, you can invoke the crown move if you would like, to bump that up to a 6 to 7 result. In which case, what just happened won't happen, or you can leave it stand. The choice is up to you, Nellie.
I think I will leave it stand for now. Yeah.
Sure thing. So yes, the sheriff will lead Donna off. Cool. So I think that we will leap into our next round of the baking contest. So obviously, if you wish to intersperse any additional investigations and stuff into these scenes, that is also cool. But yeah, I think we will jump in and start off with our next round. Obviously, people are all looking a little bit stunned by events, but everyone's pulling on with that. The show must go on. Sort of air about them. So the that will begin. So as I said, the next round is the cake round. So we'll go through the same procedure. I will ask each of you to describe the cake that you are making for this round, and then we will determine how well they each come out. So we'll start with Muriel. What is Muriel's entry for the cake round?
Oh man, what is my entry? I think it's like a 2 or 3 tier. Well, it's like not a tier. It's like it is stacked though. Like it's not just because tiers are like the actual but it's stacked that the cake itself is like swirled cotton candy flavored sponges with raspberry buttercream filling, and it's all shaped into a pink motorcycle helmet.
Nice. I like it. And I think we get Timothy is over and says, as sort of the as you're sort of finishing up the icing on it, and is it? Wow, that's pretty rad, Muriel. There's a real something of a wild child, are we?
Oh, you know me too well, and I give him a punch in the ribs.
Yeah, and,
probably actually hurts him a little bit.
And Sue kind of has popped up from the other side and said, "Well, certainly when you were putting that together, it looks like a nice fluffy cake there. Would you say that it's kind of an easy riser?"
Oh, I just may.
Awesome. Lexie, what's your creation for this round?
So I started with the idea of a classic Boston cream pie, right? Which sounds like a pie. What? No, Boston cream pie is a cake. 2 beautiful layers of yellow, sweet, classic sponge with a beautiful custard in between them. Usually, what you'd see on top of a cake like this is a thin chocolate glaze. But what I've done is to personalize, to make it a little bit more, about me. And you can see I've put I've piped the image of my of my boat, the molasses flood, on top of the chocolate in various colored icings.
Wow, this is this is impressive. I can feel my gene sizes going up by one just looking at it. But that looks delicious. As he says, it's a certainly and that's a fine looking vessel on the top as well. This was certainly you certainly seem to run a ship-shaped kitchen. So it's good
My
that you've.
grandchildren love this one. It's one of their favorites.
Excellent. And Nellie, what's your entry for this round?
Yeah, kind of not nearly as good of a baker compared to Muriel and Lexie, probably. Like, she never had kids that she had to bake for, so she kind of makes one of those Pinterest trick cakes where you like use basically like a boxed recipe and then fluff it up with some like other stuff. I think they're like chocolate poke cakes, I've heard, where you put like caramel pudding in them. Or like a better than sex cake type thing, where she makes it like very, rich and chocolatey with like creamy caramel poured in and then like set to harden.
Nice. Yeah, and I think Timothy is going to come over and say, "Yeah, no, I like how you've managed to tart up these cakes and make something really special out of them." Say an interesting take on the, but I think it's one that's going to pay off. And as for the better than sex cake, I mean, what can I say? Most women I know say that will say that pretty much any cake's better than sex. But maybe that just says more about me.
She just kind of gives like a pity and like, "Oh, you poor thing."
And he'll sort of grin back as we go around to the judging. Yeah, I think this time we will start off with Nellie. No, sorry, not with Nellie. With Muriel. So the cake.
Has someone taken Paul's place?
No. I think they're just carrying on with. I think that like maybe Sue and Timothy are a bit more involved in the actual judging element of it, rather than just doing the kind of the reactions. But there isn't like they haven't brought in an extra judge. No.
So it's Jane's show now, is what you're saying?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Does it seem odd to either one of you that like they haven't shut down the show for the day?
No, yeah, that is very odd to me. I mean, their coworker died. Can you believe it?
And the police, which you did, it's very strange. Just wanted to make a note of that.
I think I'm gonna. It's the session's getting on, so I think I'm gonna try to make a move here while this is happening.
Sure thing.
I think as I approach the judge's table with the cake, I think I accidentally fall forward and just like smash the cake into Jane's top.
Sure thing.
And I think like, oh dear, I'm so sorry. And I like take off her jacket, and then like as I'm patting her off, I'm just kind of searching the pockets. So sorry,
Brilliant.
so sorry.
Excellent.
And like it's getting on to the end of the session, so I feel like now is a time to bring it in if we're gonna do it this session. But there is the Gold Crown Mysteries move.
There is, yep. It's a very fun move.
Because, yeah.
So yeah, I'll just very briefly explain this move. So the Gold Crown Mystery move. Once a session, any Maven can say, "This reminds me of something that happened to Amanda Delacourt," and then amongst yourselves as players, you get to describe something that's happening in the situation that reminds you of an event from one of the Gold Crown Mysteries, which are the Gold Crown Mysteries are these series of books about Amanda Delacourt, international detective. Written by Robin Masterson, a reclusive and mysterious author. And basically, what happens if you do so, if you invoke this Gold Crown Mystery, you have to name the Gold Crown Mystery book that it came from, and we can't duplicate these. Obviously, each time it comes up, we draw in a new book. I'd explain the situation that Amanda was in and why this is relevant to what's happening here. And then, having done that, you then get to make a move. The move related to that, you get to count it as if you'd rolled a 12 plus. So you get the maximum success on it. So yeah, that is how the Gold Crown move works. So yeah, if you wish to invoke it, then go ahead. As I say, there's no strict requirement to. If a player chooses to do it, they can do. Obviously, it's cool to like ask the others if you want. But I tend to agree that because we're getting towards the end of the session, you may as well use it rather than lose it, as it were.
Yeah. I also know that Lexie wants to have some void clues on hand.
Yep. And yes, getting a 12 up on a medal will get you a void clue. So yeah.
Okay, so I think that there was a book called Murder on the Fly in which Amanda Delacourt found herself competing in an international fly fishing competition where one of the judges is murdered.
Yeah.
And eventually she is forced, in order to get access to the other to someone else's personal information, a bucket of bait onto them.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So, Lexie, is there anything you would like to add to this mystery?
Hold on, I want to make sure I understand the move before I.
Yeah, no, go ahead. So
yeah. I'm just looking at it quickly again. Okay, so yeah, I think the thing that so no, I've got nothing to add. I think that was wonderful.
Yeah, no, cool. And yeah, Nellie, is there any detail that you would like to add to this as well?
I like the story that Muriel came up with, so she would just kind of tie into her artistic background. Like, oh, that was the one with the covers of scenic, Canadian landscape, and like that was the clue that broke the case. Was the one that she got by like throwing bait on him.
Yeah, awesome. So so you plaster this exquisite cake against Jane, and and yeah, you know, she looks shocked, and as does everyone around. And the that's you said it's sort of, you know, it's just shocked everyone, and no one really, you know, you sell it perfectly, and you're able to, like I said, remove her jacket without her really making a thing of it. It's, you know, she's kind of a bit stunned by this going on, and so that's you're able to do so. And yeah, and I think as you you reach into the pocket of her coat, you pull out a letter. It's, you know, it's obviously it's in an envelope that's been opened, and letter's just been sort of put back into it. And you can, you know, maybe you'll look at this later, but I'll tell you what it says now. It's a letter from the Director General of the BBC, addressed directly to Jane herself, saying that, you know, they're tired of her continue, you know, of her basically being, her attitude towards the crew and contestants on the show. And whilst, you know, obviously you know, they understand that a certain amount is her kind of screen persona, but they're saying that she's going too far, and that, like, her attitude is kind of too elitist, and too it's kind of, it's starting to put people off, and go against the sort of kinder, warmer ethos that they're trying to promote with the show. And if she doesn't start like shaping up, essentially, they'll find someone else to host alongside Paul. Yeah, that's so that's the clue that you discover. But the odd thing that happens, as you say, you can, well, sorry, I should say, you have on a 12 up. Oh no, sorry, it is my choice. It is my choice. So yeah, you can either find a void clue or something about the dark conspiracy. But like I said, I a void clue is what
early on. It's probably
for.
A void clue, right?
Exactly.
Because,
yeah. So, as this cake, as you know, the cake, like, kind of falls off of her, and it's like mashed into the you know, against the cake board. Some flies start to boil out of the cake. Not, well, I say boil up. There's definitely, they're crawling out of the cake and starting to, like, fly off and around the room. And it's odd because obviously, like, these clearly can't have been in there before. You're not sure if other people have noticed particularly. Obviously, all of you Mavens can will notice this. But yeah, they're just these. It's like a dozen or a couple of dozen flies just, like, crawl out of the wreckage of the cake and start buzzing around the room before escaping out of the tent flaps.
So would you say you're not sure if anyone else notices? Is that like an uncanny not noticing, or just like things are busy so people aren't paying attention?
A little of both, but it's probably, it's not like, we're not talking like a kind of you know, huge erupting swarm coming out of the thing. It's a bit more subtle than that. It's though
right.
Certainly disturbing, and there is a lot of other stuff going on, but there's definitely this puts up the hairs on the back of your neck. I think this is there's definitely something feels like something uncanny about this. You know that you don't know where these flies have come from, because they can't.
The recipe certainly didn't call for it.
Exactly. Cool. Awesome. So, there will be kind of a bit more fussing about as they go to get like a change of clothes for Jane, and as she sort of
You have
goes
a
off
bit
to
of
her trailer.
frosting in your hair, dear.
Excellent. And that's so you'll have kind of a few moments while people are kind of milling around and a little unsure of quite what's going on, and this is probably the opportunity that you get to actually look through the letter that you retrieved.
Well, I certainly never did like her.
Cool. So yeah, Lexie, how are you reacting to this, and what are you doing?
Yeah, I think I think while like all of this distraction is going on, there's like all of this hubbub happening, and I'm definitely noticing the who's the flights, and I sort of sidle over to Scott and I say, oh my dear, you've done this before. Is this anything like the last time?
No, I've got to say this is really quite a I don't know what to say really. It's never had quite this much. I mean, okay, I know there was that whole kerfuffle between me and Paul, but I mean that's all part of the show, the course on these sort of shows. Really, you've got to have a bit of drama in there, right?
I remember reading a little bit about it on the on the internet when it happened, but I don't. What was it about? And not the. I'm sure there was a story, but like, do you mind? I've never participated in anything like this before. It all seems so almost glamorous.
Yes, well, it was just one of those things. He criticised my scones, said they were too dry, and well, I was having you know how it is. I was having one of those days, and I just kind of lost my rag with him a bit. Went off on one, and he, we got into it a bit on the show. It was all just a little bit of a storm in a teacup, really. It's nothing too sordid or anything.
Did other contestants get in fights with Paul?
I mean, there's usually at least one a series. I mean, well, you've met him. He was always a bit smug, how he is, and I mean,
I saw him on TV, but he was perfectly polite to me when I met him today.
I know he's just one of those sorts. He's I said I don't think he was a bad person, put it that way, but no, I just there's usually at least one blow up. Like I said, it's the pressure of the whole thing as well. At least I think that's one thing that's better for me this time. I've just able to be a bit more relaxed about the whole thing.
Is there anything I can do to give you a hand, and just sort of to give you a sense of what I'm angling for here? Like I wanna. I think this is a better way to do it. Like as this conversation is taking place, I'm kind of like sort of giving his baking station like kind of a visual scan, right? And sort of like maybe like positioning my body. Like this whole conversation is me sort of trying to see if like any of that, if there's maybe some of that nylon cord or something that might almond extract, or maybe even something with a cyanide label or whatever on it, that could sort of give me a clue that any of the various different murder pieces might be around his baking station.
Yeah, sure thing. yeah, if you would like to make me a meddling roll, and again, this is probably actually, I'm going to say this could either be reason for just the sort of general like scoping it out, or potentially composure if you're trying to kind of keep your, do it like subtly and surreptitiously without letting on that you're paying more attention than you ought to be.
Yeah, I think it's composure. I think this is sort of me like, I mean, I think the risk here isn't that I won't figure it out, although obviously on a 6 I probably won't. But like the thing I'm sort of like trying to do is to sort of like subtly get a clear view of things that are not, as opposed to like piece things together, if that makes sense.
Yep, sure thing.
Okay, let's roll it. 10, 11, just short of that 12.
So yeah, on a 10 up, you'll get the clue. So yeah, I think as you're kind of scoping around and looking, what you see is so he's got one of those almost like a basically like a toolbox that he has all of his kitchenware in, and it's like spatulas and palette knives and various like sort of sets of sort of icing bag nozzles and all the sort of stuff you'd expect. And there's a few other bits and pieces. There's maybe like a little saw and stuff there that he can use for doing the sort of fancier over the top sort of cake art type stuff. But you will notice kind of down towards the bottom of the main body of this tool case, you see, and it's not like hidden, but certainly at the bottom and covered by other stuff. You notice that there are a pair of handcuffs are set in amongst the other things in there, and what looks suspiciously like a ball gag, just like again, just sort of mixed in with some of the kitchenware in this box.
But not the stuff that I saw actually at the crime scene, right? These are sort of
separate. Not the same. You don't see any of that rope that you saw there in this thing, but yep.
Well, I certainly don't say anything to him. I'm like, oh, well, yes, he was kind of a prickly fellow. Paul, I suppose. How are you feeling about all of this? Are you doing okay?
Well, I mean, it's a shock, certainly. It's and all this commotion. It's putting it's stressful, I suppose. On top of all the baking, but well, we've got to kind of press on and do our best, I guess. It's it is a real shame about Paul. I know I wouldn't want you to think whatever was between us was in the past. It's not. I don't bear grudges, and it's a real shame for him. He certainly didn't deserve this.
It's okay if you do. We can have complex feelings about people. I leave him with that statement and walk away.
Cool. Nice, thank you. And Nellie, how about you? What's is there anything you'd like to get up to whilst all this commotion's going on?
Yeah, I think as all this is going down, she probably goes up to Buck, the cameraman, who, like, since he was getting a close-up of Muriel and Jane. Like he was kind of caught in some of the cake explosion. So she's like, "Oh dear, I'm afraid you were caught in the blast radius. Here, let me help you with that. I know a thing or two about color staining." And she'll like try to clean them off, and as she's doing it, try and subtly like pat down any pockets to see like if she can figure anything out. She's
Sure
like,
thing.
"How are you doing with all this? I mean, you must have first Paul, now this. I mean, you must have known him, watching him all that time."
Hey, I've known him a few months now. I'm from Boston. I've not worked here for long. Just done this American leg of the journey. Yeah, he's it's you don't expect something like this to happen certainly not on a baking show. I've seen some I've done some documentary work and some real hellholes, and I've seen some stuff in my time, but yeah, this is when it's close to home like this, it's a real, well, yeah, it's a real. It really messes with your head, and yeah, as you're kind of like wiping the thing, he's obviously like he's quite young and like well built, and he's the sort of like the classic sort of like hunky cameraman type.
Yeah, he is. Nellie will probably just like make a comment of like, "Oh my, yes, you're doing just fine." It is pretty close to home. I mean, if you ever need to talk about it, we're always here to listen. Otherwise, you just joined on the American leg. Do you have any insight into any of the people?
I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm that close to the people as such. I mean, I see a lot. We hang out, we spend time together, but
Okay, well, this must just be terrible. You don't have anyone to, lean on or talk to about all this. And then she will, for Muriel's sake, be like, "If you ever need to talk to anyone, here's my number. You can talk about any of your, any stresses because of this, and, we'll listen."
Thanks, miss. That's awful kind of you. And he will actually once again, if you would like to make a meddling roll here, I think this is probably again this I'm going to say actually again this can be this can probably be I think either probably I think this might actually be a composure, because I think it's more about like, so the thing that I'm going to give to you is I think as like he gets, similar to what we saw earlier, I think as he gets out he is going to kind of take your number down. I think he does actually like get his phone out to like write it down in and I think again there's a chance that you will get a glimpse of something on his phone that might give a clue about things going on, if you would like to roll that.
Okay, yeah. So I got 9 with so with composure and 11.
Perfect. Yeah. So people really need to be more careful with their phones, it seems. But yeah, because you will as he's sort of getting his phone out, you will see a again, his phone is open on like the on the message screen, and there is a message that was sent earlier in the day, before the murder took place. But probably like from whilst like filming was going on of the first round. The message is from Donna to Buck. That's and the message reads, I can't wait for you to get off work, and then perhaps we can both get off, sort of thing. And there's various other, you'll definitely get, like, from the quick glimpse you get of the screen on there, there's definitely been some fairly intense texts going between Donna and Buck.
Okay, like this isn't a new thing between them.
No, there's definitely an affair going on there. Awesome. So we are just coming up towards the end of the session now, so I think that's probably where we will leave things for now. We will we'll move into our end of session moves. So again, if anyone had any moves that resolve at the end of the session, we would do those now. But again, I don't believe anyone does specifically, so we will. That's not a thing. So we will go on to, nobody used one of their crowns, so we don't need to see a scene from that. But what we will do is we will ask those questions. So I will go down. I'll go through in Couch Keeper order again. So, well, I'm going to say for start, if you haven't yet solved the mystery, I think you're actually making good progress on solving the mystery, but you're not quite there yet. Mostly because you've not done the resolution roll yet. We'll hopefully get to you that next time. So that's we'll leave that there. So Muriel, did you behave like a woman half your age?
I don't know. I don't feel like I did, unless somebody has other thoughts.
I was going to say I can kind of see like the trick with the cake seems like a kind of
yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's sort of like both it's something quite physical, and it's also there's almost that like that sort of like prankish air to it. So I think I'd go with that. And did you show someone that you've still got it?
Yeah, I showed these people in the baking competition.
Yep, I think that's very fair. Awesome. So, Lexie, did you dote on someone?
I mean, I don't really think so. Like, there were these, like, I tried to be kind of like a little bit offering comfort, I guess.
Yeah,
but I feel like it was mostly to people who were not that interested in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, but I think that's fair. I was going to say, because I thought that it's particularly your moment with Jane. I felt so. I'm happy for you to take that one.
I'll take that.
I thought that was.
Yeah, I don't think I showed somebody that I still got it. Really.
Sure thing. Yeah, I can't think of a specific example for that one. So yeah, I think that's probably fair. Yeah, no worries. We'll see that hopefully next time. So, although actually, I've just thought. Because I think that I think the way that you handled the crime scene, that very much, I'm just going to go in and take charge. I felt like that was
I guess I feel like show someone. Maybe we could talk about this actually.
Yeah.
The prompt feels to me it's like there's someone specifically who's like doubting me because of my age.
Sure thing.
And
okay,
I'm
yeah.
like, I still got it. Fuck you. And like maybe a little bit less that one specific person, but like there wasn't an audience. Like
yeah.
the way,
Okay, that's
like
fair.
Muriel had an audience for her little performance in the way that I don't think that scene did really.
No, okay, yeah, that's fair. No, it just sort of occurred to me that might be there, but yeah, no, that's
I was
cool.
kind of like trying to play into that, but I don't think it really quite lived.
No worries. That's fair. So Nellie, did you behave like a woman half your age?
I don't know if she necessarily did. If anything, kind of starting with like getting Buck's phone number, but it was more like call if you need anything, not a like call if I can.
Yeah,
do
but
anything
that's how you get the cute guys' phone numbers. You don't just get them by saying, can I have them? You're like, oh, I really want to be helpful.
I'm gonna call you for sex later.
Yeah.
Can I have your phone number, please?
Yes.
Cougars can't just pounce right away.
No, I'd agree.
it.
I'd agree with that point. I think that definitely counts for that. I'm happy for that. And did you dote on someone?
That I think I would say, yeah. Like
Yeah.
between the two suspects, it was kind of for ulterior motives, but
Yeah.
tried to comfort them. I got like Lexie a handkerchief, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was quite came across quite clearly. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. So that is our end of session stuff sorted. I am going to stop the recording now. So I just want to say thank you very much, everyone. I've had a lot of fun with this, and looking forward to next time. And if you have been watching this, then thank you very much. And I'll just stop that.